the main thing with conflict, and especially interpersonal conflict, is just it needs to be addressed. The longer that it kind of lies there without being addressed, the longer it can fester and the more problems it can create. Now, it's also challenging, right? Nobody particularly enjoys addressing interpersonal conflict. And so that's why it's always helpful to have a mediator in that. And it's really the mediator's role to ensure that all parties are heard. Each party is going to have a different side of the story, right? There's the old adage of there's always three sides to a story, right? There's your side, there's my side, and there's the truth. And so it's important to kind of set the stage too, that when you're kind of all sitting in the room, each party is willing to be open, willing to take feedback, and willing to change. And that's, I think, setting those expectations before a mediation session is really helpful to at least help people get in the mindset that it's not a personal attack. We're just trying to work through some conflict amongst the team.
You have to be really careful with this. I think it really depends on the person. And once you have your team and you've spent some time together and you have kind of a working relationship, I think it's really important to go to them and ask, how do you like to deal with conflict? When you're stressed out, how do you want me to approach you? Do you want to speak one-on-one? Do you want me to tell you ahead of time that we are going to talk so you have time to collect yourself? And just being respecting that everybody handles conflict really differently, and knowing that about yourself and about your team. And it takes a long time, and having just one approach to it, saying, oh, well, I want you to just tell me right away when you have an issue with me. That works maybe for me, but it might not work for somebody else. And just having that honest conversation from the start is really important, because otherwise, if you try to use the same approach with everyone, it'll be really bad. And I think that having those resolutions in smaller groups and not in front of the whole team, and really showing a united front and being willing to deal with it on an individual level is really important, because you don't want somebody to feel kind of attacked and put on display when they're not comfortable with that. And it's really difficult, and I've made a lot of mistakes. I was a project manager for a year with our team, both before country and in country. We dealt with some hard stuff. We had huge design changes a couple months before we traveled due to a pretty large design error that our bridge engineer made. And with him, it was easy for me because we could have like a really honest conversation about it. And as long as we weren't blaming each other, it was an easy way to address it, because he's very direct and likes direct and honest communication. But I had issues with the person who was doing our review calls, and I tried a similar approach with her and found that it wasn't the most effective method of dealing with it. I thought, well, when I was with my bridge engineer, we just had a conversation about it. But with her, she really wanted time to process the issue, and she wanted to know what to do better. And I think you have to look at yourself too when you're a project manager and ask, why does this conflict exist? And is it the person that I'm talking to? Like, is it entirely their fault? Or what situation did I create as a project manager that allowed for this to happen? Because you have to look at kind of the whole picture and see what could change that would have, how can we avoid this in the future? And being honest with yourself that you might be part of the problem, and really doing some introspection before you go and you try and address that conflict, and asking for advice too for people who understand kind of where you're at and how to deal with this conflict, because it's really hard when you're a college student and you're a leader on a team for the first time of a bunch of people who are your peers. It can be really complicated, and so taking the time to reflect upon it and ask for advice is really important.